do you have any feelings about like you make a thing like this and a lot of your stuff is hung together with concepts, and I'll let you go pretty soon, but whatever music landscape and how things evolve, people listening to full albums less often or listening straight through as often, or
Yeah, it's really a conversation that is pretty fairly present every time a record is being, every time that we're kind of like working on a record, which is, I guess, pretty much always for me. Um, I think about it a lot. Cursive's on one right now that we're kind of mixing, and I keep just going back to this attitude that I think is fair, which is generationally, and also this kind of can, you know, pluck one out as just old and crusty and fusty. But I grew up with records, and so that's what I write. And uh,
yeah,
and I think that's fine. And I guess from there you don't have to be so crusty and fusty about it. I don't really require that people listen to what I do front to back. I don't
yep,
get pissed about it. I recognize that people just hear a song they like and they hit heart and then they put it on their playlist and that's how they listen to music. I hope that they pick songs that I wrote. Like that's the kind you just
yeah,
kind of have to you kind of just have to roll with those punches. But yeah, absolutely. I still like the sequence of an album, like what goes on an album and the sequence of an album is still some of the most important decisions I make in my life. And that's like
yeah,
not a joke.
yeah,
Like it is. It's like you spend a ton of time on this stuff, and a sequence is so fucking important. And the fact that it isn't important and that when it gets out into the world, it actually really isn't that important at all, it doesn't really it doesn't really diminish it for me. It's like I still know it's super important because I'm still because it's important to me, it's important to the band members, the people I'm working with. And it's also important to a smaller and smaller smattering of people who still are interested in what the sequence is and want to listen to it in that way, in that fashion.
I love that.
They're important. They're actually the most important. Even though I'm very okay with and accepting of the playlist person.
It's like
Of course I'm gonna prefer the person who listens to an album front to back.
it's like the reality is there, you're cognizant of the reality and the landscape and everything, but just you set yourself free with like, this is what I do and what I like to do. And I think it's like not to make this sound like some grand mission or whatever, but I know that I love that feeling of something just flowing and sequencing in some way that, like, in addition to the individual songs, makes me feel something. And the purpose of this podcast is also albums, it's like it's going,
Yeah. Hmm.
it's part of its point. And so this is my, I feel like in one sense I could describe it as like my little like stance for the value in that or whatever.
Hmm.
Really what I actually think it is like I cut the songs into the conversation because I genuinely think like that can draw someone into the full album. Like, all right, I'm listening to this thing and I'm learning this stuff, and oh damn, I haven't listened to track 7, 8, and 9 or whatever of this
Hmm.
thing. And like when the first season was about Jackson Brown, like I listened through most of the Bright Eyes records as they came out because I was in my 20s and stuff.
Yeah.
But the Jackson Brown ones, I didn't listen when he started singing about like in the late 80s and 90s and things like that, and like Iran
Hmm.
Contra and stuff like that. I was a fucking child. And
Yeah.
so, and I thought I didn't like them sonically or whatever's happening in the 80s to 70s singer songwriters.
Hmm.
I know for a fact, like making those things and having like giving them context and having stuff come in opened those albums up for a lot of people, including me. And
Hmm.
it's just it sometimes takes work to do it. That's why it's not the default way people do things.
Yeah. I'll add to that it's good to keep this attitude, this posy attitude about the album, because the album is an art form too. It's not just song.
Yeah.
A song is an art form, but an album is an art form, and it's still people are still doing albums, thankfully. But we should keep doing albums, and we should keep giving a shit about them. I'm a big proponent of film, and even though TV series have been great for 20 years plus now, that's great, that's cool, but that's a different medium. And I get a little bit batty when I feel like more and more people are like watch movies less because they just want to do TV series. Thankfully TV series are there's a lot of really good ones. So people
Right.
are still are, and there's so much beauty to the TV series. Like it's just they're just it's apples and oranges.
I
How
get
about
it.
that? So the medium of a story that's told in an hour and a half or 3 to 3 hours long or whatever, that's the medium of film, and it's fucking great, and I love it, and I'll never stop loving it. And I think it's totally comparable. It's the same. It's the same with
Yeah.
records. I have a hard time taking when bands I like put out EPs, and I've done this myself. I put out EPs, put out EPs or just singles. I'm like, yeah, and like I have a hard time taking them as seriously because I'm always like waiting for the album,
Yeah.
which is not really right, probably the
I
right way to listen. But it's like I can't help it. It's just kind of just I still put so much weight on the album.
yeah. I don't you think it's also possible that like a lot of these huge hit songs that we hear and we're presented them or they go off on TikTok or whatever the like thing that happens is that we're kind of describing. A lot of those songs are also on albums, and I would argue that the artist who made it probably also cares about that album. It's not the
Mhm.
artist being like, albums are dead. I'm just putting out this one. I mean, it probably in some cases is. It's just anything has some like you're chasing money or whatever, but like it's more an ecosystem and maybe even a tech incentive kind of issue more so than artists
Mhm.
have moved away from caring about albums. Like I bet a lot of these artists like Olivia Rodrigo probably cares about and loves that Paramore album or whatever, that
Mhm.
I don't know. But yeah, long live albums.
Yes,
I think
yes.
they'll be fine.
They seem to be. Yeah.
If you enjoyed that clip, you should check out the After the Deluge podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. We have full episodes there, as well as right here on this YouTube channel. So hit the subscribe button and maybe check out whatever's being suggested to you right here. Thanks so much.